Welcome back to another episode of the Marketing Quacks podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Dozer, and if you're new to the show, the mission here is to expose the quacks and gimmicks in the marketing industry while featuring some great marketers and entrepreneurs along the way. On this episode, I'm excited to welcome my guest, Ryan Ray. He's got a very good first name, by the way. So Ryan is an automation and AI consultant, and he's also a good content creator on X. So Ryan, thank you so much for hopping on.
Yeah, and am I a quack? Like is that what I'm here today to expose me as the quack?
No, not at all. It's funny you say that. I actually had someone who came on the show and they thought this was a hit piece, and it had me laughing for a while. I had to pause the episode and we continue. But no, you're not a quack whatsoever. So we're going to get into automations, AI, content creation, all sorts of stuff here. But before we do that, just provide a quick intro on who you are and what you're doing.
Yeah, thanks for that. And thanks for having me on. I've been loving getting to know you, what little I have in the background. So it's been awesome watching your stuff and in your school community. So thank you for all that. Short version is, I do automation AI work. I do some M&A stuff as well. And what got me into automation AI was I'm a solopreneur. I had a partner for about a year, but we've had to automate, and so I say we, but he's gone now. But anyways, we have had to automate so much to keep it solo, like or two-man, whatever it was at the time. And so doing M&A work, I talked to so many business owners, and the conversation was the same, their frustrations. And it's like, man, you can make your life a lot easier if you just automated some of this stuff. And so we say AI a lot, but really it's automation right now. In the future, that's going to change. But so that's what's got me into it, was talking to probably 350. I don't keep an exact count. It's between 300 and 400 owners I was talking to on a daily basis. Not every day, of course, 300 people, but like I do like 6, 7, 8 calls a day with people about selling their company. And you'd hear these same complaints over and over again. It's like, man, you could just, with Zapier, you could just fix some of your complaints. Like, we need to get this fixed. And so having to do the work myself to keep my company the size that I want, and then hearing the complaints, it was almost a no-brainer. Like, okay, I need to focus on this. I got sick a little bit last year, and I wasn't sure. We haven't known each other long enough for you to know this, but they think I might have MS. And so some of my speech stuff was kind of messed up. I was like, I don't know how many calls I can do like I was doing. And so I was like, okay, this is a natural fit for the market. It's where people need to be. They need stuff like this. And so that's what made me make the transition.
Yeah, for sure. And that's very respectable as well. So someone who's brand new to this technology of automations, workflows, agents, it's so overwhelming for someone who's new to this. Where do you recommend people get started to learn this stuff?
I've used this quote in a lot of different rooms, but it works every time, no matter the subject. The movie The Patriot, did you see it?
Mel Gibson?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Aim small, miss small. And I love that quote from that movie because so often we don't think that way. We think big, grandiose, huge. So if someone's wanting to automate their business and they're trying to figure out what to do, I'm like, hey, get your iPhone out and tell Siri to set you a reminder. Like, just start thinking about simple things you can do.
Yeah, or automated calendar tasks or
Yes.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so once you start seeing it, you'll start going, oh, I wonder if I can automate this. And the other thing I'll say is, if this, then that, right? And so that site's great. But that's the same formula. Like, if I'm doing this, then I need to do that. And so, like, thinking in those kind of concepts, if you're new to it, that's what I found to be really helpful.
So what are some of the most basic things that you think companies should automate if they don't know where to start?
Well, you touched on it, calendar request. Like,
Yeah.
I see the debate on people who hate Calendly and stuff like that. And I get it. They hate it, but it's a lot of pride there
It
because
integrates with so many things seamlessly. That's the thing.
yeah, that's how this podcast was booked, right? You sent a link, I picked a time, it sent reminders, here we are. It was that simple. We had to go back 14 times over when it would work. Our first call, I sent a link, you booked a time, same thing. And so there's that. And then when you talk about automation, the first thing, it depends on your budget. And so one of the things that we struggle with as automation people is, what's the ROI? And so I always struggle talking about what it is, because if I automate your marketing workflow to your sales, it doesn't mean you're going to get new clients, because your marketing or salespeople might not be good or bad. I mean, it might not be good. And so maybe you should automate your old clients, like how to follow up with them, how to nurture them. So stuff that you could do that would make you money instantly by going back to your old clients. If you have a good track record with them and a good reputation, maybe start there. calendar links. Like there's a lot of little simple stuff you can do, but if you're looking for the immediate bang for your buck and you don't want to risk money, automate a way to go back and to get your old clients to be clients again. That's where I've been kind of leaning on lately.
Yeah, I love that. Or just the opportunity cost of time. It doesn't even have to
Yeah.
be a correlation just to sales or revenue or whatever.
Yep.
But also, too, many companies, I would say, like when they're first getting into this, they're like stitching random workflows of Zapier, Make, N8N, but there's not much direction if someone's getting into this for the first time. So, what are the most common errors that you see people do when they're trying to automate things for the first time?
The most common, yeah, is they want to buy a tool that does it all. And so what I say is, okay, well, what are your tools now? Do you like them? Do you like the outputs they're giving you? If so, can we connect those together? And just taste that. If you like that, maybe we string together 4, 6, 8 automations, and then all of a sudden you can reevaluate. Do you want to go spend a bunch of money to get a full custom suite built or whatever it might be? But just starting there, like, what are your tools? Can they be linked together? Because if you like Trello and Gmail and HubSpot or whatever it might be, just link those together. Maybe HubSpot can do everything you want, but you just don't like the way it operates. So link your tools together is just the first step. And then once you've linked a bunch of stuff together, then you might go, that's all I need. Or you might go, no, I want something more advanced. And oh, by the way, like we might talk about it later on. Did you see the Lindy AI video yesterday?
I know what Lindy is, but no, I didn't see the video.
Oh man, like they're promoting like agents, like real, agents. And it's like, okay, don't get caught up in saying, well, the technology will be there in 2 years. I'm gonna wait till then. Go ahead and start automating your workflows now. That's what so many miss because they're afraid of the time and the effort. It's like, no, no, just start. And then as you start, you'll see time, you'll get old customers, whatever it might be, you'll like it, and then you'll think about, I wonder if I did this. And the final thing I'll say is I was at a client's office last week and they were talking about their automation stuff. And the longer we talked, the more things came to mind about they could automate. And so it's like it started with a simple thing, and then it was like, oh, this and this and this and
Yeah,
this and
what are
this.
your biggest pain points? And then
Right.
just go down the list.
Exactly. Exactly. So
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. So I want to ask you this though, too. In my opinion, there's a lot of shiny object syndrome, not
Mm.
only just the automation, but the AI world in general. What are some critical tasks that you think shouldn't be automated? I know this varies based on businesses or industries, but are there any critical tasks that come top of mind that you think might need a little more human touch than just automations?
Well, I don't think we're there yet for sales, especially if it's like high value, high ticket sales stuff. If it's after hours, you don't want to answer the phone. Maybe the AI phone answering service can do that for you. But high ticket sales stuff, it's not there yet. If you're having you got to fire someone. Okay, that's personal. That's a very personal
Right.
experience. Don't have the bot email them, "Hey Ryan, you're fired now." Right. So there are certain things to where human touch is needed. What you want to do is balance out how much can you automate that workflow. So your top salesperson, what you want them to do is to hop on the call with when it's time, not to send the 47 emails, not to go back and forth, not to do all this stuff, other stuff. You want them to be there to build a relationship, to nurture it, but at that time, not to do all the busy work that got them that call. And that's kind of that balance of, so you don't want to automate, you don't want to get rid of that, but you want to automate the rest.
Yeah, I want to hear your take on this too. I think quality, in my opinion, is the big X factor with automations and AI that a lot of people just miss, right? So, the
Mhm.
example that I give in the content creation world is you see these tools or these gurus all the time make 1,000 YouTube short videos
Yeah.
or faceless videos and post them all on auto post. And it's like, what about the quality? Is that going to convert to anything? Is that going to lead to anything down the road? So, what is your take on this whole quality component and mixing that in with automations?
Okay. So I'm torn. Be honest with you, I'm torn. Most of my content is AI generated. Like that's what I do. Not all of it, but a lot of it is. And I'm not very good at video yet, or maybe ever. And so I don't have a take on how the video stuff works. That's your area, not mine. You have a better perspective. Uh, but when I watch video, I go, okay, if I could have a faceless or an AI bot, a UGC, do this TikTok video better than me, and they can get the hook better and get attention because we are scrolling, right? You're just trying to stop the scroll, and so if you know the words for the hook, great. As far as the mass production component, that hook's only going to work for so long, right? So you might not want to go and do the next 6 months worth of content because months from now, that
Right.
hook won't work. But for the next 2 or 3 weeks, I'm not opposed to that actually.
Yeah, and also too, what's the objective, right? Are we looking at just vanity metrics? Because
Yeah.
AI generated and automations, that's perfect for vanity metrics, but are we actually looking for lead generation? Are we
Yeah.
looking for quality
Mhm.
subscribers? Are we looking for revenue? That's a whole other conversation that these people don't want to talk about.
No, I'm torn here. So tell me your thoughts.
Yeah, I think from an SEO perspective too, we could use blog posts as an
Hmm.
example, right? How many AI blog generators are out there that can generate 1,000 blogs in a matter of minutes? But I'll tell you this from experience, unless you're working with an 80-90 DR, domain with all these backlinks and
Hmm.
EEAT and authority, those likely aren't going to rank depending
Right.
on the niche, right? So there still needs to be that fine tuning and human element of SEO expertise, adding the internal links, the external links, the backlinks, the images, the videos, so on and so forth of on page SEO checklists. So there still needs to be a
Yeah.
fine tuning of an expert in order to actually move the needle, in my opinion.
Yeah. And so if you go back to what I said a minute ago, right, that's that the expert doesn't have to do all the busy work. They do what really matters.
Right.
And so you might can reduce it. Yeah, I'm always torn because what I know to be true is that whatever I think about AI and automation, there's more advanced tactics than I know. Right. So
Same
whatever,
here.
yeah, you're right. And so you know more stuff about certain tools than I ever will. And so I'm always hesitant to say, I'll see people online like, oh, AI content doesn't work. And Cody Schneider has a whole video about how he uses AI to respond to LinkedIn comments.
That's so
And he,
nuanced. Just saying something doesn't work.
yeah,
The answer is it depends every single
right.
time.
Exactly. And so it's I'm always torn with, well, how far can you push it? How far can I push it is one thing. How far you can push it is something different. How far can someone get in that's just starting push it? That's probably not the same, right? And so there's these levels. And the final thing I'll say is on this is that what I've seen is that the content, if me and you're talking offline, what we're going to talk about is going to be a little deeper than maybe we would talk about on Twitter, right?
For sure.
Because what people on Twitter want is the shiny object. And that makes it tough because I want clients, not shiny objects.
Same with
But
YouTube, bro. It's all about the top of funnel and the hooks
yeah,
and the titles and the thumbnails. I get it.
but the hard part is the people with the shiny objects. And it's like the shiny objects, they're cool, but you're probably not gonna pay for them. You just want to see the cool stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
that's cool. And so it becomes a very tough thing to balance where it's like when I talk to people like you, we all have the same problem, which is what we know and what it can do and what it can't do. Cool. But what the public wants and what they're trying to understand is really shiny objects. And you're like, okay, well, this is a shiny object, but you really need this. Like I use AI in my title because I do AI stuff, but I'm not doing AI cool videos. That's what you think of.
Right.
It's automation. What most people actually need. They don't really need AI in the way they think about it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So let's talk about AI agents really quickly. That's the huge buzzword that's been floating around
Mhm.
everywhere. So have you successfully deployed AI agents that kind of defeat the purpose of traditional automations? Or I guess how should someone decide when to use an AI agent versus an automation, etc.?
This answer will be 100% wrong. So, because
Know
next
more
week,
about this than I do.
no, no, no. I'm saying
Inform me.
because next week some tool will come out and just vaporize it. And the Lindy AI thing I watched yesterday, I haven't tried it. And I do have that caveat with stuff. If I haven't tried it or someone I know and trust hasn't tried it, I don't buy it just because the internet says it to be true. So when I think about AI agents, I more think of how, like earlier, stringing tools together. How can we string tools together? And it kind of feels like an agent almost because a good example would be you have a 10-person sales team. We deploy a note taker into those calls, and then you have AI summarize the calls, whose objection to what, how they're
Mm,
responding, and give you that report. So you go, well, that's not a true agent. Okay, but for the general public, they may think of that as an agent, right? The Lindy AI thing I saw yesterday was pretty cool because they're maybe cooking with some more real agent stuff that we would consider agents. And so I haven't got to dig into that yet, but I don't think I honestly believe I don't know if it's a year, 6 months, or 2 years. You would say, "Hey, Ryan, come on your pod." You would say to your agent, "Hey, I want Ryan to rate my podcast," and then your agent would coordinate with my agent, and they would book the whole thing, and we just pop on this thing. Like that's coming.
right.
Um, how close is it in reality today? It just depends, and how much money do you have, right? Yeah, because you're limited on that. But so the agents, when people talk to us about agents, it's more of like we're stringing tools together, and it feels like an agent. but it's not how I would probably categorize a true agent if I was speaking to someone in the world. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
No, I completely agree. I do the same thing. I'm like,
Yeah.
there's all these developers that are doing
Yeah.
crazy things with agents on N8N. I'm like, bro, that is completely out of my
Yeah.
wheelhouse, you know?
Yeah.
So let's shift to content creation a little bit. You're extremely active on X, formerly Twitter. How do you stay consistent, I guess, and what parts of your content creation process are you automating?
Yeah, well, I use Tweet Hunter, and so
Okay.
that's one thing I do. So I schedule my tweets out, not all of them, but a lot of them, and then I'll put random stuff in there as I see stuff or I want to comment or post. Um, and then the other thing is I've tried to adopt this idea like yesterday, or I guess today's the 17th, so 2 days ago, I downloaded the KJV version of the Bible from Gutenberg, and I took like 24 Psalms, and I had Claude write Psalms about tax day and how depressing it was, and it did pretty good. So like that wasn't planned out. I was like, oh, I need to do this.
So are
And
you
so
actually using automations where it takes the API from X and posting, or are you manually going through and copying and pasting and scheduling and all that stuff?
well, if I use Tweet Hunter, it has a tool that will manually that will automatically
Okay.
post it. So I have like certain times it posts, and so I do that. And then if I get an idea, then I might go Tweet Hunter. I might go Twitter. Just depends on
Right.
what I'm the work involved. I haven't connected like you were asking about the APIs yet. There's some of that. It's like again, it goes back to this thing where I would need to hear from someone I know, like, and trust and see them do it versus watching the YouTube video of someone saying it can work because sure it might can, but me figuring it out. And Twitter for me is it's a tool to I'm just putting out stuff, commenting on stuff, attracting clients, hopefully, or newsletter subscribers, whatever it might be. That's what I'm trying to do there. And so I want to automate that as much as I can with the sense of I go back and I review the data, what worked, what didn't work. So like right now this week, I did the thread I mentioned, but a lot of stuff I had created was if you're not using AI or automations, you're like this, And then I had some inverse ones where like it's me
I like
putting
those because it's a good analogy that applies to the average
right.
person and they can see that.
Yeah, exactly. And then I had one today about if Chat GPT doesn't work, it works when I gaslight it or something like that. And so what I did was I went to Chat GPT and I said, hey, I want 20 tweets about this, 20 tweets about this, and then 20 tweets about this, and it gave me the tweets. And I looked at the ones I liked, and then I put them in Tweet Hunter, and then the schedule's already set. So
Mhm.
that's how I did it because I was like, oh, okay. And so I'll go back in a week or two and see what tweets worked, what didn't work, and then try to improve based upon that.
Yeah, for sure. Are you mostly using Claude or ChatGPT to come up with these ideas, or what AI models have you found
Yeah.
best for copywriting?
Yeah. So if I'm trying to mimic a voice like the KJV, I went with Claude because I found it to be really good at mimicking. ChatGPT is hit or miss for me. If I want ideas, and most of my work is probably in ChatGPT, so like the ideas for the tweets I mentioned, it knows how to write them in my voice because I've talked to it so much.
Right.
So, but if I want to mimic someone else's voice or do something like that, then Claude. So it just kind of depends on what I'm doing. And this goes back to that same thing. I'm not saying Claude can't do it or ChatGPT can't do it. It's just what I found to be the best. You might say no, ChatGPT. If you use these prompts, cool, great. Tell me, like I want to know.
Yeah.
I just struggled with getting voice mimicking in ChatGPT to really work, and Claude has been really easy. And
Yeah,
so,
Aaron, is it McCulkey is his last
yeah,
name? I
yeah,
had
yeah,
him on the show. He had a great point about being tool agnostic to what you just said,
yeah.
where you see all these gurus on the internet, they're like, it's Gemini 2.5, it's
Mhm.
ChatGPT, it's Claude, there's no other better answer. And it's like, no, it's not really how it works. It
No,
depends on the situation.
it absolutely does.
Yeah.
And for like if you're listening, what I would say is pick one platform. If you don't want to pay for multiple subscriptions, that's cool. And then to start collecting the prompts from all platforms. Like retweet, I'll send you a prompt, do it all day, every day, and just start building a database. And then like with Lovable, I don't know if you talked about it in the show or not.
Yeah.
Like if I'm in Lovable, I have ChatGPT tell me what to put in there. Like I don't just try to figure it out on my own. I'm not a web designer. That's
Oh,
not my
I do
skill
this
set.
all the time. It's
Yeah.
advanced prompt generation.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And so then when it'll write the prompt, and I'll put it in Lovable, and then I'll take a screenshot. If I don't like it or if I have a question, I say, "Why did it do this?" And it'll tell me. And so you'll see people online they'll just ask Lovable, and you can do that. Of course, you just waste the credit. And for me, I'm like, okay, well,
Right.
until I'm sure I want to use this tool, I want to be as efficient with my credits as possible. A and B, if I want to sell this as a service or something like that. I want to be streamlined as possible. So let me work through this workflow of how I would do this. And so yeah, there's a gazillion tools. I'm agnostic. I don't care who wins the race. If it's AI, Grok,
Right.
I don't care. It doesn't bother
Yeah.
me.
I don't care either, as long as it's good for people like me and you. So let's
Yes.
on that topic, I'm curious now, quick. Who do you think is going to win the quote unquote race? Let's say in about 5 years, who do you think is going to be on top?
Apple.
You think so?
I just said that to get that
Oh,
reaction.
I was like, it's Google for me. I was like, that's the first time I've ever heard someone say Apple.
I just said that so you would do that.
It wouldn't shock me, man, with their resources. They could pull
Yeah.
it out eventually.
Yeah, I suspect, like, what, 2 weeks ago, people were saying Google's too far behind, the race is over, and now it's like, "Oh, Google's the greatest thing ever." Apple is gonna have their same moment, I suspect. I could be wrong. Um, these big companies have so much data that it's hard for us to even fathom what they have. So Google probably will win, but it wouldn't surprise me. I know ChatGPT is talking about launching their own social media platform. We'll see how that works out. But Facebook, they've got
Meta, yeah.
yeah, Meta, so they've got all kinds of stuff. So all this data that it's hard for us to understand what they actually have, but they got it. And and it's also hard for us to understand today what they're doing that they're not telling us about. Not to be like malicious, but
Yeah.
Meta's rolling out stuff, and then they'll have a public release. Oh, we're releasing this stuff. Well, they tested it for months to make sure it worked, and so I just kind of know like Apple's right now is behind. Who knows? They might get crushed, but
Yeah.
it wouldn't surprise me if Apple come out and was like, oh, guess what? Here it is. And we're all like, oh my gosh. Because the benchmark to move ahead of the market right now, I don't think is that high. I mean, because if you're talking about advanced uh, GPT functions or LLM functions, okay, cool. Most people aren't using that. So it's shiny object syndrome, to your point. And so if Apple can do something that just shocks the market for a few weeks or months and gains a bunch of market share, great. That's all they got to do to get their foot back in the race. And so, but I think Google will probably win.
Yeah, Google's my obvious choice. I think that honestly the two dark horse situations here, because if you remember, Microsoft is still a big investor in OpenAI. So I think
Yeah,
that's
that's
gonna
true.
that's gonna come out to play at some point. Microsoft wants their fair share of everything.
Mhm,
I think the other dark horse is XAI. Looking at Elon, not only is he I think he still has the highest net worth in the world. He's the richest
mhm,
person. Look at all his political power he has for the
mhm,
next 3 years with
mhm,
Trump and all these things that
mhm,
he can block with these AI bills and whatnot. You see
mhm.
where I'm going with this.
Oh, yeah.
So I think Google is the obvious choice, but I think XAI and Microsoft are the two to lurk in the background.
So I'm curious because I agree with X, except they have really pushed back on sharing links on social media. And I'm curious how that shapes the race because Google is links. X is like, we don't want links. We want you here. And Elon, if you're listening, buddy, just so you know, when I click a link, I have X open like 15 tabs. Like I'm coming back. I'm not leaving. But they need to fix that because I don't post links as much because it hurts my reach. And
That's same
so,
with most social platforms though too.
right, but Google doesn't have that problem. And so
Right.
that's why I think that they're so if OpenAI says, "Well, we don't want that issue. We want you to share the links so then we know where you're getting this data from better or this information from better," that could help them. I don't know, but I do think that that shadow banning of the link thing could play in a factor down the road because we want them here. I get it.
Yeah, as
You
a
want them here.
creator, that's a huge incentive for us for sure.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
So I also want to talk about your newsletter really quickly. I know you just shifted over to Beehive. I've been using Kit. I still call it ConvertKit. I've been using it
yeah.
since 2018. What was the reasoning that you shifted over to Beehive? I'm just curious.
So I had a Substack for years. And I got to where I'd have clients call and they want me to build out their newsletter. And I was like, oh, you can do a lead magnet. You can do this. You can do this with Beehive. But I couldn't do it with my Substack. And I was like, eventually the functionality of Beehive was just something I was like, okay, I need this. This is what I need. I like their sponsor network as well because it's a good way. Like Substack has a way to recommend you, but I think me showing up as a viable sponsor for other like-minded newsletters is good. It gives them access to me. They can see, we like sponsoring this guy. But the automation side, like being able to create a lead magnet, roll it out, and roll them in a 3-5 step nurture process is so huge. And so Substack wouldn't do that. And I get that's not their thing. Cool. But for me, I need that functionality. I've heard kids great. No pros or cons on that. That was just it was just that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that the simplification of automations is really what people have come into Beehive. Same with
Mm,
Kit. Kit's really
mm.
good at this too. But I want to wrap this up here by asking my favorite question to you, Ryan. Let's define marketing quacks. This is the Marketing Quacks podcast after all. So, if there was one marketing trick or gimmick that you've seen people do in the AI and automation world, who is that quack for you?
Ah, I think you touched on it earlier. so and so is now dead. We're never using this again. And I get it. It drives views, and so maybe I should do more of that content. But in reality, anyone who's followed this space for any length of time knows it's not true. And so, if you see that out there, if you see me doing it, LOL at me. But if you see that out there, realize that that's just a hook to get people to look. It's not really true. And so, um, that's it's one of those things where I'm always torn because maybe I should do more of that content because people want that, but I know it's not true. And so I always struggle with that
The
because if it's
ethics
a,
that
if,
come
if
into it. Yeah.
right, if it's a client that calls me up, I don't want them to say, "Oh, well, you said last week United's dead. Now you're telling me to use that." It's like, yeah, well, that was a tweet. And so I was, that's probably overthinking it, but it's not. Yeah, that I don't think
There's a
I
couple
should, but
YouTubers I follow. One you probably know. He is notorious for everything is insane, everything is
mm-hmm,
dead, this is
mm-hmm,
going away, RIP this. And it just
mm-hmm,
I had to mute him because I got so angry at every single clickbait video that I saw
mm-hmm.
pop up on my feed. I'm like, I don't have the ethics to do this, but I
Yeah,
understand what he's doing. It's genius.
it's yeah, it's tough because like today, my newsletter was the one marketing prompt that could eliminate your team. And it's like, okay, well, it depends on your team,
Yeah.
and it's like, so we'll see how it works. But I just like, oh, I don't like it because I know that marketing prompt isn't going to be the one to eliminate your team. But
That's a catchy subject line, I'll admit.
but I do know that if people aren't ever and really with what I do is I send out a prompt a day and some other stuff, but it's like, okay, just trying to get them to whet their appetite because they need to taste that. Okay, hey, here's a prompt, use it. Is it the greatest prompt ever? No, it's not. I sell those. Like I can't give all those away. Obviously, I do those for clients, but is it better for someone who's not using ChatGPT? Yes, and that's kind of where I try to play at. Like the stuff I'm going to give away or give out is like, okay, hey, this is better than if you just logged in, and said, hey, what's a good marketing prompt? Like they wouldn't know how to structure a good prompt, and so it's better than that. Is the goal.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Ryan, where can people follow you online to learn more about what you're doing?
Yeah, so my newsletter is dailyinboxtips.com. It comes out 6 days a week at 10 o'clock in the morning. So dailyinboxtips.com. And then where we met, X, I'm there all the time at Ryan Ray Senior, SR for senior. So
Perfect. I'll link all that stuff in the below, give you some good podcast SEO juice as well. And Ryan, thank you again for hopping on this episode of the Marketing Quacks podcast. And everyone listening, be sure to tune in again next time.
thanks for having me, brother.